Since the beginning, Philadelphia and its surrounding communities have looked after, taken care of, and given back to each other in times of need. All with love. WMMR has lived in the Philadelphia spirit since the Marconi experiment in 1968. We will always put Philly first.
It's now time for the WMMR Public Affairs Show on 93.3 WMMR Philadelphia.
You're listening to 93.3 WMMR. This is Public Affairs. I'm your host, Marcus Goldman, and with me today are Derek Fiorenza, who is the president, CEO, and founder of Fiorenza's Food for Friends, F4, and Ted Zobian, who is the chair of the board of presidential advisors for F4. And they are here to talk about an issue that is a year-round problem, but again, it's something that needs to be talked about. It's a conversation that's sometimes very hard to have, and that is hunger. And they're here to talk about what the F4 charity does, as well as the big gala coming up on 11/11. Derek, Ted, thank you very much for stopping by to chat today.
Thanks for having us today.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus.
Before we get started and talk about what F4 is, the gala, and what you all do, could you give backgrounds on yourselves and how F4 came to be and how you got involved with it?
My name is Derek Fiorenza, president, CEO, and founder of Fiorenza's Food for Friends. And the idea of F4 started when I was a college student at Villanova University in December of 2007. And I was volunteering at a Breakfast for Santa event in Westchester. I was helping out at the Westchester Historical Society and Mizuna's Catering. They were catering the event. And I asked them if they would be willing to donate some food so that our family could take it and serve a shelter in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. And they agreed to do that. They donated 25 meals, December of 2007, and we took that food as a family and we served it. And then each subsequent year after, 2008, 2009, and in 2010, we increased the total through donations around Christmas time to serve. Finally, in 2010, we served over 1,500 meals that we had donated from universities and restaurants to different homeless shelters, all the way from Coatesville, Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, and it's been growing ever since. That's basically the overview of how I started the organization, and the impetus, I guess it was really put on my heart. The Lord showed me this is what I was supposed to do with my life, was to give back. In the year of 2011, we actually incorporated as an official 501c3 nonprofit organization, and I spent the entire first year, 2011, graduated college. I went to California, University of Pennsylvania for my master's degree, finished up in 2010. So I did my undergrad at Villanova and then my master's at Cal U, finished up school, and then I decided to start this charity. 2011, I spent the entire year doing that. I went into debt, used credit cards to form the organization, and then was able to make myself whole. 2012, I started working with my father for Summit Group Retirement Planners. We take care of retirement plans for employers, working to make sure that their employees are saving money for their future. So that's my full-time occupation, my full-time job. I'm a retirement plan specialist, but I spend a tremendous amount of time during the week giving back, trying to end world hunger.
Right. My name is Ted Zobian. I'm a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch, and that's a tough story to follow because I guess right when I got out of college, I wasn't doing nearly as much to change the world, but I've come around. I've had some good examples in my life, and Derek is one of them. I was introduced to Derek through a mutual friend, and as a financial advisor, I helped wealthy people give their money away over time, and I wanted to take some of those strategies and experience and help charities, and asked a couple friends to make some introductions to charities they thought highly of. And a mutual friend introduced Derek and I went very quickly from offering up my strategies and to actually getting involved. Joined the board of presidential advisors, and shortly thereafter I was honored to be asked to be the chair. And that's how I got involved. Derek's passion for trying to solve this problem of hunger, not just in our area, but across the world, really took me aback to see somebody who's so passionate about a great cause just really lit a fire and took what I was doing, which was, on the fringes helping out, but I really wanted to get involved and help solve this.
It's pretty incredible with what you're doing, because if we actually used all of the food waste that we have and put it to good use as far as feeding those in need, we'd be able to completely eradicate hunger, especially the way the Western world gets rid of food.
So that's certainly true. And a couple of statistics, we waste roughly 30 to 40% of the food that is produced. And globally, the food waste equates to $1 trillion annually. So we're talking of some staggering statistics. There's enough food wasted that we could fill the Lincoln Financial Field every day in America and still have leftover food.
Yeah, with $1 trillion in food waste a year, we could feed the world multiple times. It only takes like $1 billion, 1.2 billion, or 1.9 billion, I think was the latest number they threw out to feed the world so that nobody starves. So it really makes no sense that we're even allowing people to starve. So it's great that you're doing what you're doing. I know when I was talking to Nick McElwain, who's I think going to be hosting your gala on 11/11, that you've worked a partnership with a great company from the area, Wawa.
We've done work with Wawa, our role with Wawa, and maybe let me back up, give you an overview of our organization and what we do. F4's vision is to create a world without hunger. Our mission is to connect sources of food to recipients in need. So think of F4 as a facilitator, building bridges, getting the access for that agency, that shelter, that food bank to the food that they need. So our relationship with Wawa was this. We worked with Wawa to develop relationships with local shelters. Wawa has a relationship at the corporate level with a company called Food Donation Connection, FDC for short. And what FDC does, they'll work with an employer, any business entity, and under the new omnibus bill that passed in December of 2015, any corporation that decides to donate their food to be used for shelters can receive a tax deduction of up to 15%. So Wawa, being an organization, worked with FDC, and FDC calculated for them the tax deduction that they can take for donating their food. They also help them in terms of locating different shelter agencies to pick up the food, and FDC holds them accountable for picking up those foods. So, for example, St. John's Hospice, right in Philadelphia, they pick up food from a Wawa right around the corner. They're picking up that food. FDC is managing that relationship. So we really played a small role in the Wawa piece. Our involvement has been rather small, but what we are doing, and this is on the macro level, is we are building bridges. So any restaurant owner that's not currently donating food, hotels, universities, we work to facilitate relationships between those restaurants and that excess food, that source of excess food, and the willing recipients, the St. John Hospice of the world, the Sunday Breakfast Mission, City Team in Chester. We're working to complement and support their amazing efforts that they're doing, because they're the ones that are doing the blocking and the tackling. They're the ones that are serving the food. They're the ones that are picking up the food, transporting the food. What we're doing is we're creating relationships and building the bridges so that that food becomes made available. We're not transporting it. We're not serving it. We're not delivering it. We're just building the bridge, building that relationship.
Gotcha.
That's the role there.
Could you give out the social media information, the website, the phone number, your Facebook page, your Twitter account, all that information, so that people can get information about it? And then we'll talk a little bit about the big gala coming up on 11/11.
Absolutely. The Twitter account, it's at F4 Service. That's at F4 Service. So F4 Service. And the Facebook is F4 Service. So that's F4 Service. And the phone number, it is 610-955-7090. Again, that's 610-955-7090. And if somebody wanted to volunteer with us and help us out, I'll give out my email address. It's D for Derek, and my last name, Fiorenza. That's F as in Frank, IORENZA at F4service.org. And our website is www.f4service.org. Again, that's F4service.org. In that same vein, I wanted to kind of circle back to the conversation we were having about the perishable food rescue. So that's one arm of what we do. We also work in the non-perishable sector as well. And what we'll do is we'll work with companies to build partnerships and relationships to encourage them to donate non-perishable food items to support local food pantries and food banks. A great partner of ours is the Chester County Food Bank in Chester County. We work with Phil Abundance. So any food pantry, food cupboard, food bank that is collecting food, what we're trying to do is we're trying to swim in what I always call the blue water. So work with the companies that are currently not doing anything to have them step up to the plate to start donating their food. And what we'll do with a company that wants to donate food, it could be any type of corporation, we'll come in and we'll do a lunch and learn, educating their employees about hunger globally, and then at the micro level explaining the hunger in our specific area, in Philadelphia, surrounding counties, Delaware Valley, and we'll explain to them how your contributions make such a huge impact and such a huge difference in the lives of so many people that are struggling. In addition to that, not only will we have them collect food, and we'll specify what types of food that the food banks need. So we would talk to Phil Abundance and say, what type of food do you need this time of year? Do you need peanut butter? Do you need rice? Do you need tuna fish? Find out from them what their needs are, and then ask the company if they would have their employees collect those types of foods. We also will do what's called a virtual food drive. And with that, we'll have employees donate money. Then we'll give that money to the food banks, and the food banks will then be able to purchase the food with the economies of scale that they have, and they'll be able to secure more food for that same dollar, so they're able to be more efficient with a dollar. For example, Chester County, their food bank, for every dollar that's donated, they're able to buy 4 pounds of produce. So they're able to buy more with their dollar than we could buy by going to the local food store. So not only are they more efficient, they're more effective because they can buy the foods that they want, and then it comes in, it helps reduce their volunteer hours because it's coming in on pallets as opposed to having to kind of sort through it. So when we work with companies, we ask them if they're interested in doing a food drive. We give them the opportunity to do traditional food drives, and then we also have kind of sprinkled in this new opportunity to now do the virtual food drive piece. Ted, you want to add anything to that?
No, it's really impressive with the amount of leverage that the food banks and cupboards can get by spending the money more efficiently than you and I can get. I mean, it's great that we could show up with a couple of jars of peanut butter at the office and drop it off. But if what we buy can get two jars of peanut butter, what they can buy is 5 or 6 jars of peanut butter. And, just think you multiply that over so many different participants, the impact is tremendous.
How do you find a company? You said that you find companies that aren't active in this. How do you find these companies? Do they come to you? Do they hear about you? Do you do cold calls? How do you research this?
So going back to when I first started, everything was done on cold calls. I would reach out to restaurants. I'd reach out to companies. I'd ask them to do food drives. I would ask them to donate food so that we could serve. And a big supporter of ours early on, Maggiano's, actually in King of Prussia, very supportive. Another supporter was the Rose Group, Applebee's. Very supportive in the early years. Mizuna's Catering, right in Westchester. These restaurants believed in the cause. They believed in what we were doing, and they would donate food. In terms of doing food drives, I was doing a lot of cold calls. I was doing relationship building, going to networking events. Now what we do, through our board of directors and our board of presidential advisors, we leverage relationships that we have, and we try to reach out to companies through the relationships that are already established. And then a lot of them also are coming through word of mouth. So opportunities to kind of get the message out what we're doing. Because it's what's neat about what we're doing, and I always come back to this, what we're doing is trying to feed people. How we're doing it is through food drives or food rescue. But why we're doing it, why is really the powerful piece here. Why we're doing what we're doing is to change the world. We want to create a world without hunger. And that's a pretty powerful, vision statement. It's a pretty powerful why. Our why is to change the world. We want to create a world without hunger. So I think what resonates is that message. And whether it's an employer or whether it's a restaurant, they know that there's an opportunity to kind of get involved, and it's not that hard or time consuming. They know that they can make a pretty big, significant impact. That's where we're seeing traction.
I was also reading on your website that you do not take government funding in any way whatsoever. Everything's done through private donations. What are the private donations used for besides going to the food banks and food shelters? Are there any other uses that you use, any other things that you do where those funds go?
So I'll jump on this, and then Ted, you can kind of chime in. When I first started the organization, I wanted to remain bipartisan. I wanted to not have any strings attached to what I was doing, so I wanted to kind of really stay pure. And the best way to do that was to not take government funding. Right, left, we just wanted to stay right down the middle. We're here to serve everybody. I wanted the messaging to be from our organization that we're a loving organization, we're compassionate, and that we're inclusive. We love all, serve all, like the Hard Rock Cafe, and I've done some work with them too. But that's really the key here, is we want to make sure that we're taking care of everybody. So I just didn't want to cross the lines. So that's correct. We don't take any government funding, federal, state, or local funds. Everything that we do is privately fundraised through corporations or individuals. And what we do as our business model, as I was explaining before, it's a little bit different than most organizations. We don't have a central hub. We don't have a brick and mortar building. We don't have trucks out there that are transporting food. So the question would be, well, why do you fundraise? And the answer is pretty simple. We want to be able to sustain what we're doing and expand it to go national. And the way we do it, since we are a virtually run organization, we're going to need some staff members to work. And that's why we raise funds. So we're building up an endowment now that would be able to generate interest to pay our staff in the future to let us become self-reliant. And that's the goal behind fundraising. And we believe with more employees that are working on a part-time or full-time capacity, we'll be able to establish more relationships. And the end result of establishing more relationships is that more food banks and more food pantries and shelters benefit from additional food coming into their coffers, so to speak. So that's really the role that we're playing. Ted?
Yeah, so one of the things that impressed me, Marcus, was when I first met Derek and Brenda, what they've accomplished since the founding of F4 with very little fundraising has been tremendous. I mean, huge impact. I mean, we're in 23 states now. We are closing in on 1 million pounds of food being delivered to people who need to eat.
Yeah.
And that's with very little funding. So what we're trying to do now is very little funding and a lot of hard work. But what we need to do is we need to raise money so that we can hire a few more people and really spread out across the country. So we're going to have more people in this region. Eventually we're going to have offices across the country to take our message out and really just keep driving us forward so that we can accomplish our vision of a world without hunger.
The other big key here is we really want to be here to complement and to not compete. And I want to make that point very clear. Whether it's Phil Abundance or St. John's Hospice, we're not serving the food. We're not transporting it. We're building relationships to benefit these agencies, these organizations. And that's really what our key distinction, our role is. It's a really unique way to combat hunger. We're really basically being a marketing arm for all of these agencies, being an advocate for them, so that hopefully in the result of our efforts, more food will be donated to them to serve people that are in need.
I would add to that is that, once we get to the point where we're all pushing against each other in the same space to feed people, I think we've already pretty much solved the problem. If we're competing to feed people that are hungry, I think we've gotten our country and our world into a good position where we want to be.
I don't know, the competition to feed people it sounds kind of weird, because hopefully everybody's working together, which is what you're trying to build with the relationships versus the competition. You're working with Phil Abundance. We do a lot of work with Phil Abundance, as you are well aware of, the Preston and Steve Camp Out for Hunger. And we end up putting about 1 million pounds of food out there every year as well to help the shelters. And these are the types of relationships that are important, because it's more than just the holiday season. It's year-round people are hungry.
Amen.
Every day of the year. It's organizations like this that work in conjunction with other organizations that make this not only awareness happen, but make the action happen too. And the action is very key, because it's the action that gets people fed.
You're absolutely right. And predominantly the food drives that happen are around the same time Camp Out happens, right? Right around Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that's great, because there's a need. But, there's also a need in late spring and early summer when kids are getting out of school and they're losing some of those school meals. So what we talk to our we call clients, right, or the companies that do these food drives, is why not do it twice a year? If you do it once a year, do it twice a year, and let's do one later in the spring to really fill in some of that gap, because, like you said, it's a year-round problem. I would love to do it 4 times a year. You can't tax these companies too much. They've got a job to do as well. But you try and get these companies really to think outside the box and figure out a way to solve this problem.
And do you work with company matches so that companies match employee donations and things like that? Are those types of things also part of what you do?
Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize their companies will match their donations. So when we're sitting down speaking with a donor, we'll ask them if they know about the plan, and they should go and check with HR and figure that out. I personally do it through the companies I've worked with, and Derek does it as well. And that's another great way to get leverage, right? If every dollar you give, the company gives an extra $1, and you give it to the food shelter, and the shelter or the cupboard, and they go out and buy 10 times what we could buy if we were at Acme or wherever. And it's an impressive multiplication leverage of those dollars.
And just to kind of go back to Ted's point and to your point too, Marcus, it is crucial that we complement and support one another, because you're 100% right. We need to come together to solve this issue, which is why I really believe in the long-term value of our model, of what we're trying to accomplish and how we're doing it. I think that there's a lot of green spaces in front of us to kind of grow and expand. And one of the things that we're doing now is we're aggressively trying to recruit philanthropists, different community civic leaders, centers of influences to our board of presidential advisors. And Ted, you can maybe spend a minute or two on that. But the goal of this board of presidential advisors it sits above the actual board of directors, is to basically get us into companies throughout the country that are not currently doing anything to fight hunger, to combat hunger, to do something now about it, to step up, whether it's financial contributions, whether it's a food drive, whether it's reaching out to restaurant owners that they know. Because we could really come together real quickly and solve this if we all decided to say, hey, I have a restaurant owner, I have a company that wants to do a food drive, let's do some food rescue. We can work hard together. So Ted, do you want to just hit the Board of Presidential Advisors?
The mission of the Board of Presidential Advisors is to make introductions, to help raise money, make introductions to places that both have the employees that can do food drives and to restaurants that have excess food. We're looking for centers of influence in not just in our region. We already have somebody in Texas. We have somebody out in Pittsburgh. We're looking eventually to cover every state. So the more people that we can get involved in the Board of Presidential Advisors, the better. That'll help us really move the ball down the field.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about the Board of Directors too. So the Board of Directors is really the board that is getting their hands in the mud. They're the ones that are doing the work day to day, the operations of the organization. And Matt Restaino is the chair of our board, head of our fundraising team. Brenda Russell, she's our executive director, and Jason Littman is our chief operations officer. So between this core group of constituents, I work with them on an almost daily basis to figure out which restaurants we're working with, which companies we're working with for food drives, how we're planning our events, like the gala that's coming up here. So I can't give enough credit to the board of directors that are volunteering their time, and that's what this has been. It's been a team of volunteers, as Ted said. We've run this on a shoestring budget. To be able to say we've been responsible for the service of over 1 million people across 23 states, building over 90 partnerships. We've introduced 90 partnerships to the market that did not exist prior to our coming into the space. So I think I really want to just give a shout out to them for their tremendous hard work over the years and what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, as we said, the fundraising isn't for us to get paid. It's for us to bring people on with that passion that we already have there, but just to give them a little something to cover their expenses, because a lot of it's coming out of pocket. And it's tough. Towns like this, it would be nice to have a little bit of a salary to get multiple people and the people that are already involved not spending so much money out of their own pockets.
Now, you mentioned the gala. We've talked a little bit about it so far. Let's talk about what it is, when it is, all the details, where it is, because people need that information.
So I'll give an overview of the vision for the gala, and then you can give the details. We wanted to, as a team, be able to put together an event that would make a statement as an organization that would let people know that we're here, that we've arrived, and that the world of hunger will never be the same again. It's on our hearts to aggressively attack and eradicate global hunger. And we believe that, with the essence of us, who we are as people, we want to fundamentally change the world so that nobody goes hungry anymore. And I hope that this event is not only productive from a financial standpoint, but also from a hunger awareness standpoint. I've always said that our organization should do 3 things. Number 1, it should educate others about food insecurity, the need to feed people. Number 2, it should engage our community, our constituents, and give them a feeling of being empowered, an aspirational message so that we can aspire to something different, not accept the status quo. And then number 3, eradicate. We obviously want to take the steps necessary to actually eradicate the problem. So this event, it's a culmination of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of investment, 10 years of fighting this problem. And here's where we're at. This event, it's a symbol of what we've accomplished. It's also a symbol for what we will accomplish going forward, and hopefully that's the key.
Right. This is the first annual gala. So the organization's been around for a number of years. This is our first time pulling together an event like this, and would like to really give a big thank you to Maggiano's Little Italy of King of Prussia. I mean, tremendous support over the years of our organization and donating the space and the time for us to have this event. Great food, great space. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, as you said, it's Friday, November 11th, Veterans Day. We're going to have a little bit in the program thanking the vets who are involved, because we got a few vets that are involved with the organization that will be in attendance that night. So we wouldn't be where we are as a country without them. So it's a special thank you to them. So the event's going to kick off around at 6:30. We're going to have a cocktail hour. We'll have a silent auction. People will be hanging out, socializing, networking, hopefully bidding up the silent auction prizes. Mm-hmm. And then we'll head in for a nice dinner and a program where we're going to start out with our opening comments, and the great Nick McElwain will be emceeing the event, so I'm sure it'll be very very funny as well as touching. And Derek's going to explain what F4 does, because this in essence is our big debut. We're going to be telling people exactly what F4 does, why we do it, and how we do it. And then we're going to have a few people actually give testimonials. The testimonials are really going to show. We'll talk about what we do, and then they're going to talk about how it's changed their lives and the communities in which they live.
So the speakers are Larry Welsh, he's the director for the Chester County Food Bank. Anthony Willoughby, he used to be the food director over at St. John's Hospice in Philadelphia. And Tyler Fitzpatrick, who is a volunteer. He started volunteering with the organization as a college student, and F4 has had a good impact on his life, so he's going to kind of share his story. So I guess just kind of wrapping that event up, we are hopeful that it gets the word out there, and that people leave the event not only knowing more about what we do, but are inspired to do more.
Yeah, anytime someone hears Derek speak about what the problem is and how we're fighting it, it's hard not to get a little passionate about it. I know I did, and I've seen it happen over and over again. So we're really looking forward to firing people up to help solve the problem in the Delaware Valley and elsewhere.
Excellent. Do you want to give out the website, the phone number, the social media information again one more time, please?
Sure. The Facebook is F4Service. Again, that's F4 Service, so F4 Service. And the Twitter is at F4 Service. Again, that's at F4 Service. Our website, www.f4 F4Service.org. Again, that's www.f4service.org. My email address is dfiorenza, F as in Frank, IORENZA, at f4service.org. And we can be reached by phone at 610-955-7090. Again, that's 610-955-7090.
And any last words before we wrap it up, gentlemen?
We'd love to see you out there at the first gala at Maggiano's, Little Italy. I think it'll be a great night to celebrate what we've accomplished and learn about how you can get involved to help us fulfill our vision of a world without hunger.
Yeah, I guess in closing, Marcus, thank you for the time. I'd like to thank the Lord, my Savior, Jesus Christ, for the opportunity to start this organization. Although it's a secular organization, we were founded on Christian principles, and we want to make sure that as we continue to grow and expand, that we can not only solve this problem, but do it in a way that's being compassionate, being loving, that's being inclusive. Everybody deserves to be fed, and that's our key. And it's going to start with everybody listening today. You're listening, you can make a difference. So I implore you, I urge you to reach out to us, reach out to our organization, and get involved. We could use your help, support financially, your volunteer, your time, or food drives, food rescue opportunities. So thank you to WMMR. Thank you today, Marks, for having us. And as Ted said, we look forward to seeing you at the gala.
You're listening to 93.3 WMMR. This is Public Affairs. I'm your host, Marcus Goldman. If you would like more information about F4 Services and what they do, feel free to email me, publicaffairs@WMMR.com. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your Sunday.
The WMMR Public Affairs Show is locally written, recorded, and produced by your host, Marcus Goldman, with topics that relate to the WMMR listening area to better serve and inform the WMMR family. Thank you for listening, and we invite you to tune in next week to another show as WMMR puts Philly first.